Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company of the 440 Sports Network, presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. And, of course, we are a part of the Believe YouTube network, which we're very, very excited about. A big show today, a lot of stuff to get into. But I have to say, I am keeping an eye, and I understand that a lot of our audience, if not most of our audience, watches the show not live, but watches it on their own time, which I'm cool with. I mean, again, it's a different ball game than before. But I am watching in live time right now Team USA Canada women's gold medal game. And right now, Team USA down 1-0. If they lose, I'll be a little sad. If they tie the game, I'll get very excited. And so I guess if you're watching live, you're going to see my lifetime reaction of Team USA women versus Canada. And if you're watching on demand or you're listening to the podcast, which a lot of people like to do, then, well, you'll know what happens. So you'll know that there's going to be a point in time where I may or may not lose my mind. So that is how I guess we're starting today's show. Mel Kiper Jr. Boy, it's almost Mel Kiper Jr. season. He has a demand for the Titans, which I actually kind of like, which we'll get to in a second. First, I want to tell you about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I love Hiller. They take great care of my home, and they can do the exact same for you. They've been in business since 1990. They are family-owned and operated with 100% satisfaction of happy you'll be or the service is free. And I know this because I use Hiller at my home. If a customer is not pleased with the work that is performed, Hiller will make it right. Learn more by visiting happyhiller.com. Professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians that come into your home and leave it better than they found it. Again, I know that because I use Hiller at my home. Care is their core value. They believe that when they care about others, everybody wins. And they do care. And that's why I love Hiller. Proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. That's Hiller. Call the Happy Face Truck today. Jeff Schwartz, who I'll be on with tomorrow on Sirius XM, just texted me. We'll be on tomorrow morning at 5 a.m., 6 Eastern. He texted me and just said this is going to be a pretty big choke job. Again, Team USA down 1-0, and they are just firing everything at the net, but they should not lose to Canada. Now, in men's hockey, we should lose to Canada. I hope we beat Canada, but should not lose to Canada. Okay, Mel Kiper Jr. Now, it is, I guess, technically Mel Kiper Jr. season. Everybody wants to talk draft picks. Everybody wants to talk mock draft. Everybody wants to talk combine next week. The truth is, as far as I'm concerned with the NFL, it's free agency season. And then once free agency opens next month, and we see the big money guys go off the board right away. And then we see guys we thought were going to sign for big money, and then they end up not having much of a market. And then we see guys kind of trickle out. Then it becomes draft season. But I hate to say it, people care about mock drafts. People care about Mel Kiper Jr. And teams like the Titans make decisions in free agency, I think, based off of the draft. So when it comes to Mel Kiper Jr. Mel Kiper Jr. on ESPN has a demand for the Titans when it comes to the 4th overall pick. Here's what Mel said on ESPN.
He's all over the place, particularly at edge rusher. Need somebody to get after the quarterback, and wide receivers. Somebody actually will catch the football when it's thrown to them and not end drives with drop passes, as has happened really over the last 2 years too much at Tennessee. But edge rusher, so critical. And David Bailey, you got to get a guy inside of your top 4 when you pick him 4. You don't want to reach for the 6th, 7th best player. David Bailey out of Texas Tech, formerly of Stanford, where he was very good. This year, he was great. He had sacks in 11 of the 14 games, right? He had 8 forced fumbles over the last 2 years, 5 at Stanford 2 years ago, 3 this year at Texas Tech. I don't want to hear about pressures and hurries. I want sacks. I want guys who can finish and close it out, right? And David Bailey, Jordan, can do exactly that. Tennessee needs a guy like that. And Bailey, right now, and Arvell Reese vying to see who really is the best defensive player in this draft.
Okay. So Mel is saying needs all over the place, receiver, edge rusher, but you need to take David Bailey. Or as he said, Arvell Reese, because as we saw, Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft at NFL Network has David Bailey going at number 2 to the Jets, which would put Arvell Reese in play to the Titans at 4. And so Mel saying, hey, difference makers on the edge. Jordan Reed, who was with Mel in that, suggested that the Titans use the 4th pick on Carnell Tate, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. And Mel fired back talking about the state of the receiver position in the draft. And again, what the Titans absolutely need to do.
And one thing is, wide receiver is arguably the deepest position in this draft. They will be able to find really good ones in the 2nd through 7th round, really. Brendan Thompson out of Mississippi State. Where's he going to go? He may be one of the fastest players in this draft. I love Zachariah Branch. Some not as high on him as I am. Can't throw the ball down the field to Zachariah Branch when they're throwing everything short. So I think he can do more than just be a guy who's a bubble screen sensation. So for me, I think you can get wide receivers. That's going to be their debate. We wait a little bit and get a wide receiver or two, but to get a guy like David Bailey or an Arvell Reese from Ohio State, you got to get those guys high because they are special entities coming off the edge.
Okay, I see the conundrum. Now, Mel is saying this draft is deep at receiver. You can get a receiver in the 2nd round. The Titans will be picking at the top of the 2nd round. Mel is saying these guys on the edge, Bailey and Reese, are special players. Mel would know better than I would. He's saying you've got to go edge rusher with the 4th pick. Now, here's where the conundrum lies. The Titans right now have a lot of money to spend. Everybody's making a big deal about that. The Titans told all the broadcasters at the end of the season that they were going to spend a boatload of money. Adam Schefter was talking about the money they were going to spend. Kevin Harlan during the Chiefs game was talking about all of the cap space that the Titans are going to spend this upcoming offseason. And so we know that the Titans have a lot of money. And we know that the Titans are going to spend a lot of that money. Or at least they've implied they're going to spend a lot of that money. I've already told you, if Amy lets you spend at the 25th amount in the league, which is where you've been on average over the last 4 years, that's still $160 million you get to add this offseason. And that's before cutting guys like Lloyd Cushenberry and L'Jarius Sneed, who I think you're definitely going to cut. So, when it comes to the pass rusher debate versus the receiver debate, I have 2 thoughts. The first is this. It is easier, in my opinion, to get an impact pass rusher in the free agent market than it is wide receiver. Mike Evans is old, and he's coming off of an injury. Trey Hendrickson is coming off of an injury, but he was a dominant player last year before he had that injury. The best wide receiver on the board is George Pickens. He's probably going to get tagged. And Alec Pierce is the 2nd best receiver, and he's really a number 2. And again, I think Alec Pierce is going to get tagged. So it's all old guys like Mike Evans or Deebo Samuel, or guys that are good, but Romeo Doubs, Rashid Shaheed, Wan'Dale Robinson, etc. When it comes to edge rusher, there are guys out there like Trey Hendrickson who are bad dudes. Odafe Owe is 27 years old. It is easier to convince yourself, you know what, you can get a pass rusher, a high-end pass rusher in free agency, so let's do that, and then let's draft the receiver. The thing with me is I don't believe in that. I don't believe in position discussions. Now, I do believe in premium position versus non-premium position. The value of a premium position player is bigger, to me, than the value of a non-premium position player. Jeremiah Love does not have the same value as David Bailey has, even though Jeremiah Love is just as good of a prospect because he plays running back. It's the same with guard. Think of the Atlanta Falcons. They have Chris Lindstrom, one of the best guards in the NFL. They have Bijan Robinson, one of the best running backs in the NFL. How good are the Falcons? So I always keep in mind that the position talk I don't like to have is the we need a receiver, draft a receiver, because that gets you Corey Davis. I don't like that. But I also would say, hey, if we're talking 4th overall pick and you want me to draft the running back, this running back better be Barry Sanders. He better have Derrick Henry's impact if I'm going to use the 4th overall pick on Jeremiah Love. And this is why I believe I agree with Mel Kiper. And that is, again, without having the grades in front of me, and we haven't finished all of the draft board, but this is where I think I agree with Mel. If David Bailey and Arvell Reese project as impact pass rushers that will get after the quarterback and really be top of the league guys, not Myles Garrett, that's a generational player. But if these guys project as Micah Parsons type pass rushers or Aiden Hutchinson type pass rushers, I think you have to do it. Now, the debate, I think, is fair if Carnell Tate were to project to be Jamar Chase. But I don't think Carnell Tate does project to be Jamar Chase. So since Bailey and Reese project to be those quote-unquote special type talents when it comes to the fourth pick, what did Mel call them? Special entities? Well, I need a special entity with the fourth pick. When it comes to Carnell Tate, who, again, seems like a good receiver, he's not even the best receiver on his own team. That doesn't sound like a special entity. And again, that's what gets you Corey Davis. Corey Davis wasn't bad, but Corey Davis was not worthy of the fifth pick in an absolutely loaded draft. So when it comes to what Mel Kiper's saying, and I already see people in here saying like, I don't care what Mel Kiper has to say. Mel Kiper, what's he know? I agree with Mel. And again, a lot of people are going to say, you've got to get weapons for Cam Ward. I agree and I understand, but my priority in terms of building the football team around Cam Ward, because I think we all agree at this point, that's what they have to do. They have to build a football team around Cam, and they have to hope that Cam is as good as they think he is, because if Cam is not as good as they think he is, then they're all going to get fired anyways. But the way I build the team around the quarterback is I build it with a defense and a running game, and then we'll add the playmakers after that. But I'm going defense, running game, and I want the quarterback to win games. And I think the quarterback can win games if the scores are short and the game is short and we keep, hey, Cam, we just need 16 points in this game. We don't need 26. I think that's a big difference. So I am prioritizing, I'm with Mel Kiper. I am prioritizing those guys over, again, the idea of we have to get a receiver for Cam in the draft. Again, second round. Now, what I don't do is I'm not going to just say, well, you got A.J. Brown in the second round, so you can draft the receiver in the second round, and that'll be like getting A.J. Brown again. Because it's a lot more complicated than that. One of my favorite things is, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday when it came to the Bengals. So the Bengals, 2 years in a row, tagged T. Higgins. And then they gave T. Higgins the big contract. And I think when they tagged T. Higgins, because the Bengals didn't, the Bengals aren't a team that we would expect to go out there and pay everybody. I think the Bengals tagged T. Higgins hoping somebody would offer a first or second round pick, and then they could draft another T. Higgins and not have to pay the big fat salary and the big fat signing bonus. Well, that didn't happen. And I think the reason that didn't happen is because teams like the Chiefs and teams like the Bills were like, no. We're not going to trade a high pick and then pay T. Higgins. We'd rather draft Xavier Worthy. We'd rather draft Keon Coleman. And on draft night, that sounds like it makes a lot of sense. After the draft is over, a couple of years down the road, you look at the New England Patriots and you say, you could have traded that pick for T. Higgins and instead drafted Jalen Polk. So keep that in mind. I think you can get a receiver at the second round pick. Mel would know better than I would, but I'm not just going to assume that second round receiver is going to be A.J. Brown. So I want everybody to be cautious in that regard. One person says, defense doesn't get you to the playoffs. In the playoffs, you need offense, defense, and special teams to win a championship. All right, but we're years away from the championship, guys. And I don't know how many years away, but I'd probably say 2. I just want a team that goes out there and wins 8 or 9 games and for this season and is competitive in a handful of other games so that 8 or 9 wins could really be 10 or 11 wins, especially if Cam pops. That's how I feel. But again, that's just me. So that's the first thing. Mel Kiper Jr. says they got to take Bailey or Reese, and I don't see too many people today say they need a receiver, which I am thankful for. Speaking of wide receiver, I do, by the way, believe that the Titans need a receiver. I just don't think they have to use the 4th pick in the draft on a wide receiver unless they're stupid. And doing that is what gets you J.C. Latham. Well, we have to take a tackle. Really? Because this tight end out of Georgia, Brock Bowers, he's pretty good. And so when it comes to that, I'm just saying. Speaking of receiver, so there is one name that I did not put on the free agent board because he's not technically a free agent. And I know that Tyreek Hill's name has been thrown into the mix, but he's injured, older, and I think he's probably going back to Kansas City. But there is one name when it comes to the trade market that I am very intrigued by. And that wide receiver that I'm very intrigued by is DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears. Now, I was surprised today when I noticed that DJ Moore has never made it to a Pro Bowl in his career. I find that to be crazy because the last wave of good receivers, the A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, that crew, I think included DJ Moore. And DJ Moore's never made a Pro Bowl. I was a little surprised by that. And so I see and I hear that the Chicago Bears are interested. They are shopping. They are looking to move DJ Moore. And so I say, you know what? Let's do some homework on DJ Moore. The same way that we do homework on these guys that are free agents and we put them all on the free agent board, let's do the same thing for DJ Moore. Now, I think the reason that the Bears are looking to move on from DJ Moore is not a DJ Moore problem, but I think it's because they've used a first-round pick on Rome Odunze. They've used a first-round pick on Colston Loveland, and they've used a second-round pick on Luther Burden. And so they've got these young, productive players, and it's pushing out the older, expensive players like DJ Moore and the tight end Cole Kmet. And that makes sense. And DJ Moore's stats last year were down, especially compared to what he's been in the past. And so some people will say that's a drop-off. DJ Moore has fallen down. DJ Moore is on the decline. We don't want DJ Moore. Again, they would be like people that say, this is what the Titans do. Randy Moss and Andre Johnson and Eric Moulds and Julio Jones, and this is what they do. But I don't think DJ Moore really has fallen down. And I don't think DJ Moore is an old pawpaw. I think DJ Moore is 29 years old. But here's what I think is fascinating about DJ Moore. I don't think the Chicago Bears really want much for DJ Moore in return. I asked somebody in Chicago, I said, what do you think it would take to get DJ Moore? He said, 4th. He said, if Ryan Poles can get him for a 4th and get that money off the books, I think I'd go ahead and do it. Now, I think Ryan Poles, the general manager in Chicago, I think he's an idiot. And so, I know that they're doing okay. Ben Johnson kind of runs the show there. But this contract that DJ Moore has is a problem for the Bears. And here's why. They've used these picks on receivers. So if you want to save your money, you would say, well, we've got Loveland and we've got Odunze and we've got Luther Burden and Ben Johnson can develop receivers and we can draft them and so on and so forth. We can save that $24.5 million, which is the amount of money that DJ Moore is due this upcoming season, and we can spend that elsewhere. And that does make sense. The problem is that 23.48 of that 24.5 is fully guaranteed. So can we just right now all agree that the 24.5 is guaranteed? Because it's technically 23.48 but the total is 24.5. If they can't find a single taker for DJ Moore, no matter what they offer or don't offer, if they can't find a single taker, then they're going to keep him on their team because what are they going to cut him and save $1 million? So DJ Moore's contract is essentially fully guaranteed this year. And let me make sure I get this right. On the third day of the league year, $15.5 million of the $24.5 million due next year becomes guaranteed. So if you do pick up DJ Moore, you're not only committing to this year at 24.5, which is not crazy, but you're also committing yourself to 15.5 on the third day of the league year for next year. So Chicago is kind of in a tough spot if they want to move on from DJ Moore. So when it comes to this free agent board, DJ Moore is 29. Alec Pierce is 26. There's a little difference there. Romeo Doubs is 26. Rashid Shaheed is 27. Wan'Dale Robinson's 25. But are they as good as DJ Moore? And when it comes to trading for players, the one thing that you do not have to do is you do not have to pay a signing bonus, which is the big thing you have to pay when it comes to free agency. So, the way I look at DJ Moore, I say, okay, is DJ Moore falling apart? Is DJ Moore declining? Is DJ Moore, and here's what I came up with. DJ Moore's PFF grade last year was 67.8, which is exactly the same PFF grade that Calvin Ridley had last year. But the difference is DJ Moore plays 51 out of 51 games over the last 3 years and has not missed a game since 2020. With all due respect to Ridley in that time period got suspended for gambling, left the team in Atlanta for mental health reasons, and last year broke his fibula. So DJ Moore is more consistent than Calvin Ridley. Not only has he been very consistent in his career, he plays 74% of his snaps out wide, 5.5 career drop rate, and he had 3 drops in each of the last 2 years. All the metrics last year for DJ Moore's career on like a that was the same. The production dropped, but I think that's just because there were more mouths to feed. They have 2 tight ends. They have 3 receivers. This is not the same as when he and Sam Darnold played together in Carolina, and the only person Sam could throw the ball to was DJ Moore. Now, the weaknesses for DJ Moore, he did have a down year by his standards. Lowest targets since his rookie year. Lowest yards, 682 of his career. You do have to commit to 15.5 next year. And he had the lowest PFF grade of his career last year, but it was still somewhat in line with he's like a 70-72. It was still somewhat in line with the 67.8 he had last year. So then comes, well, what would you rather do? Would you rather pay the big money to a Romeo Doubs, or would you rather pay it for really 1 year guaranteed of DJ Moore? Personally, I think I'd rather have the consistency of DJ Moore. Then think about this. Calvin Ridley, you can make a determination on by the 6th day of the league year, because that's when $4 million of his contract becomes guaranteed. You can eat the $4 million if you'd like, and then move on once you get a DJ Moore. But the way I look at it is, if I can get DJ Moore and give up basically nothing, then I wake up tomorrow morning with DJ Moore, Chim DK, and Calvin Ridley, and I still have a couple of days in the league year to make a decision on what I want to do with Ridley, who I can cut if I want to. So here's the deal I'm willing to make, and this may actually be a bad deal for the Titans, but I have determined I want DJ Moore. So here's the deal I'm willing to make for DJ Moore. I am willing to swap 4th-round picks with the Bears. The Bears, as of right now, have the 129th overall pick that in the 4th round. The Titans have the first pick in the 4th round. That is pick 101 overall. which has a little extra value to it at the top of the 4th round, because let's say Chicago were to make that deal, then they get all Friday night going into Saturday to take calls on that pick or decide, hey, this is the guy we really want at the top of the draft. That was the guy or the pick that ended up being Chim DK last year. The value of that pick, according to the draft trade chart, is that of a mid-4th round pick. So I'm not giving up a pick to the Chicago Bears, but I am giving them the value of a mid-4th round pick, and I'm getting DJ Moore. Now, once I get DJ Moore, that does not mean I am out of the market at receiver. What it does mean is I now have 6 days once the league year starts to decide what I'm going to do with Calvin Ridley. So if I've got DJ Moore and I want Rashid Shaheed, and Shaheed would make sense if I get DJ Moore because DJ Moore's outside at one of the positions. Shaheed is my speed guy at the other position, and DK, for right now, until we start drafting players, DK is in the slot. So if I were to do that, I could sign Shaheed, and I wouldn't be desperate to sign Shaheed, but I could sign Shaheed, and then once I sign Shaheed, because he'll be gone by the 1st or 2nd day of free agency, which is well before the 6th day of the league year, once I do that, then I can turn around and feel very comfortable in releasing Calvin Ridley. Now, it's not totally fair to Ridley, but that's the contract you signed. So I talked to 2 separate people in Chicago. One person told me if Poles can get that money off the books for a 4th round pick, he'd do it. Well, I'm not giving you a 4th round pick, but I'm giving you the value of a mid-4th round pick. And then I talked to somebody else who told me if they could just get him for a 5th, they'd do it. So I'd go to the combine next week and I'd say to Ryan Poles, hey, man, I'll take DJ Moore off your hands. But if I take, yes, way to fucking go, USA. Was that Hillary Knight? 2:04 to go in the game. And USA, USA, USA. Let's see what happened here. At the point, Knight's right in front. Oh, God, that was nice. Oh, that was nice. One-timer from the point. She gets her stick on it, deflects it into the net. All right, tied at 1. Fuck you, Canada. And that comes from somebody who, by the way, like my family is half Canadian. Lindsay actually wore what I got her for Christmas, and I totally screwed this up because I should have, instead of getting her, what happened is I got her like a authentic Canada jersey with her name on the back. And I got it for Christmas, but it, had to ship out of China. And so it took forever to get here. And so I told her, and I had a bunch of Christmas gifts. And I was like, by the way, there's one thing that hasn't come yet. And in hindsight, what I should have done is I should have just not told her about the jersey and then given it to her for Valentine's Day. But I didn't do that. So I had to go buy Valentine's Day presents too. But she's wearing her Team Canada jersey to work today. And I am so happy for Team USA. All right, back to business. So I go back to the DJ Moore trade. I look at Shaheed as a speed guy down the field. I've got DJ Moore. I can do whatever I want with Calvin Ridley. I've got Chim DK, and I can still draft the receiver. And the money is not out of this world crazy. I think I kind of like it. I would bump into Ryan Poles at the combine if I was the general manager of the Titans. And I would tell Ryan Poles, hey, I'll take Moore off your hands. And I would be willing to offer a 5th round pick. And if he wants more, then what I would ultimately be willing to do is make that pick swap in the 4th round. But because the timeline on the negotiation is by the 3rd day of the league year, Chicago with that $15.5 million, Chicago could sit there and just say, hey, we got to do the deal now. So that's first thing. Now, I do see some of you guys in here talking about he's drooling over Rashid Shaheed right now. Someone says, yes, he's super high on Shaheed. Dude's a gadget player to me. The price on him is too high. Shaheed is not necessarily a gadget player. He's a stretch the field vertical threat. That's what he is. And you guys can tell me that that's not that important, but it was clearly important enough to the Seattle Seahawks, who absolutely needed Shaheed's speed on special teams and as that vertical threat to go with JSN. So give me a break on the Rashid Shaheed front. Nate said, you could be the best wide receiver ever coming out of the University of Tennessee, and Jared wouldn't want him because he hates Tennessee sports. When have I ever said don't draft a player out of UT? I feel like I've been, I don't know, I look at UT players all the same. That's the difference between me and some of you guys. I look at UT players differently than you do because I look at UT players the same as I look at all the other college players. You guys look at UT players and you're like, oh my God, Jared, we got to have him. He's a Vol. Like my buddy Chad Withrow. I love Chad Withrow. You know I love Chad Withrow. But Chad Withrow, if there is a Vol who is halfway worth of shit, he will think that guy's going to be great at the next level. That's how I'm not like that. That's like when I would dog on Levis, some people would be like, you're just dogging on Levis because he went to Kentucky. I don't care about that. Hey, this is the NFL. What do I care where you went to school? Give me a break. Unbelievable. By the way, George says, do you think Robert Saleh can get Quincy Williams back to his all-pro self? I actually didn't think about that today. And I highlighted that on the chat. It wasn't a topic I wanted to get into today, but I did highlight it on the chat. Simply because I thought about it. I was like, you know what? They probably need a better inside backer than Cedric Gray. Like Cedric Gray can be the second inside backer, but they probably need one of those Fred Warner war daddies like they have in San Francisco. And maybe that's very important to them. This is just something I was thinking about earlier today. Okay. I do want to get to the Bradley Chubb. Yesterday, we went over the pass rusher board, and people were like, what about Bradley Chubb, Jared? He just got released by the Miami Dolphins. And I said, okay, fine. Let's look at Bradley Chubb. Now, again, I've told you, I'm all in on Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson had a PFF grade last year of 82.9. That is elite. Odafe Owe is 27 years old. Bradley Chubb, 30 years old, coming from the Miami Dolphins. Last year had a PFF grade of 54.5. That's not very good. It was 88.8 in 2023. Now, the thing about Bradley Chubb is he is kind of reliable if you excuse the torn ACL that he had in 2024 because he's played 33 out of 51 games. So he's played every game except for missing an entire season because of a torn ACL. He played in all 17 games last year, and he had 8.5 sacks. Those were kind of the good things about him. The bad things, his PFF grade was awful. Again, 54.4. And everything, sacks, pressures, pass rush grade, all way down compared to where he was in 2023 when he was an elite player. Now, one thing I do keep in mind, Vic Fangio was the defensive coordinator in 2023. Vic Fangio was not the defensive coordinator. Anthony Weaver was the defensive coordinator in 2025. Vic Fangio's pretty good defensive coordinator. So when it comes to the contract, he was due $20 million, 20.23 in 26, and the Dolphins cut him. Here's what I'd say about Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb is not part of the discussion as far as Trey Hendrickson is concerned to me, or Odafe Owe, though I much prefer Hendrickson to Owe. Bradley Chubb is in the discussion for me along with Draymond Jones and Kwity Paye and Dante Fowler as these guys that I would sign to a one-year prove-it deal or a 1 year $10 million, 1 year $12 million, that kind of contract. And I assume Bradley Chubb will either get a better offer somewhere else or will get that kind of offer from a coach he's familiar with, i.e. a Fangio, or a team that is more ready to compete. So would I have some sort of a consideration for Bradley Chubb? Sure. But not as my top of the board free agent pass rusher. Now, when it comes to Trey Hendrickson, you know I love Trey Hendrickson. And you know yesterday I said I'd make the Godfather offer to get Trey Hendrickson. An offer you can't refuse. So I asked one of my nerd friends, one of these analytic companies, not going to name names, but I said, hey, I would go all in on Trey Hendrickson to the Titans. And my nerd friend said to me, he goes, that's great, but Hendrickson might get tagged. He said the reason PFF thinks 1 year, $21 million for Hendrickson is because they think Cincinnati's going to tag him. And I said, Cincinnati's not going to tag Trey Hendrickson, is he? Because Cincinnati last year got into this huge fight with Hendrickson over his contract, and it was because they didn't want to pay him $30 million a year. And if they tagged him, they'd have to pay him 1 year, $30 million. And again, this is the Bengals we're talking about here. The Bengals, the cheapest organization in all of football. I believe that if Cincinnati had been offered a 1 or a 2 for Hendrickson last year, then they would have done it before getting into the tag and everything else. Now, I think there's a market to pay Hendrickson, but I don't think there's a market to give up a pick for Hendrickson, a good one, and then pay Hendrickson. Which takes me to the what-if game. I've told you, if Hendrickson gets to the market, I'd make a 3-year, $90-something million offer. I'd be willing to go to $32, $34 million a year. I'd guarantee the first 2 years if I have to in order to get Trey Hendrickson. But if Cincinnati tags Hendrickson, that's really not the end of the world. Because yesterday I was sitting there talking to my nerd friend, and I said, what about T'Vondre Sweat? And then this morning, I don't know if my nerd friend talked to Yahoo Sports, but Yahoo Sports had a headline about potential deals for Trey Hendrickson. This, I guess, is SB Nation. And this is Matthew Minich who wrote this. And he wrote it this morning at 6 a.m. talking about a potential tag and trade for Trey Hendrickson. And the first name that they came up with was T'Vondre Sweat. According to this blog, Trey Hendrickson and McKinley Jackson, I don't even know who that is, and I don't need McKinley Jackson, but whatever. Trey Hendrickson and McKinley Jackson for T'Vondre Sweat. They write, the Tennessee Titans have deep pockets and are not afraid to make a move. The Bengals targeted T'Vondre Sweat as a potential target at nose tackle back in 2024, but with the Titans taking him with the 38th pick, they settled for McKinley Jackson 62 picks later. Sweat is coming off of an extraordinary year in Tennessee. What? Whatever. Sweat is coming off of an extraordinary year in Tennessee, where he clogged up the middle and accumulated 21 tackles and 2 sacks. The 362-pounder will turn 25 this summer and is under contract for 2 more seasons. The Bengals may need to add a day 3 pick to make this work, but don't undersell how much value Hendrickson could have as a player who could have / should have won the Defensive Player of the Year award in 2024. Sold. And this is along the same lines of thinking I had, which is when it comes to making a trade for a tagged player. I talked about this with Sam Darnold last year, that I would have asked Minnesota to tag him, and I would have traded for him to make sure that I got him. If Cincinnati tags Hendrickson, what they're saying, I assume, is we're open for business. Again, I don't think there's a first-round pick or a second-round pick out there for Trey Hendrickson, knowing that you have to pay Trey Hendrickson once you acquire Trey Hendrickson. He's not going to be happy playing on the franchise tag, and I get it. So Cincinnati tags him, and they want something in return, but nobody's going to offer a first or a second-round pick. T'Vondre Sweat is a former second-round pick, And T'Vondre Sweat is a former second-round pick who does not fit what this Tennessee Titans coaching staff wants to do. Now, I still think he can be on the team if you don't find a taker, and that there will be situations, goal line, third and short, where you'll definitely want T'Vondre Sweat in the game. But if Cincinnati's calling around looking for a third-round pick or a fourth-round pick or something so that they get something more than a comp pick in exchange for Trey Hendrickson, why not T'Vondre Sweat? And we know T'Vondre Sweat fits what the Bengals want to do because the Bengals had DJ Reader, who was the good version of T'Vondre Sweat. Big, fat, dependable, run-stuffing nose tackle. And then they let him go when he got to be too expensive. Sweat might be lazy. Sweat might be fat. Sweat might have no motivation. But the Bengals don't care about that. What they care about is money. And Sweat's not expensive. So, as much as I hate the idea of the Bengals trying to trade Trey Hendrickson, as much as I hate the idea of Cincinnati tagging him because, oh, God, now I got to give up something for him. The Titans don't really have a use for T'Vondre Sweat anyways, so fuck it. I think that's a great trade. And apparently I'm not the only one who thinks that. So we went through the DJ Moore trade. Here is the Trey Hendrickson trade. The Bengals get T'Vondre Sweat. And this is what I call narrative season. In narrative season, it doesn't actually matter if T'Vondre Sweat's that good. What matters is that you can sell yourself, you can sell your owner, and you can sell your fans on the fact that, hey, we're acquiring a former second-round pick who had a good rookie season, who's a good run-stuffing DT, who just doesn't fit what the new coach in Tennessee wants to do. But this guy, he's an impact player, and so it's better than a third-round comp pick next year for Trey Hendrickson to get T'Vondre Sweat this year. Fine, whatever makes you feel better. You get T'Vondre Sweat, I get Trey Hendrickson on the franchise tag, and then I go and give him a 3-year, $90 million contract, $60 million, $55 million, somewhere in that ballpark guaranteed, $40 million in cash in the first year, and on you go. So now I've got Simmons, Hendrickson, and I've told you I want to probably draft one of these guys at the top, and you get your big fat run-stuffing DT to replace DJ Reader, and you are now done with Hendrickson. You don't have to pay Hendrickson. You don't have to pay Sweat. You don't have to do any of that. And you guys in Cincinnati can go on and have the 27th ranked defense and lose all these games with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. I love it. And so, again, I'm just telling you, when it comes to Trey Hendrickson, I don't care how I have to get him, short of trading away a first-round or second-round pick. I probably wouldn't trade a third-round pick either. It's because I need young players on the team. And I understand the risks that are associated with Trey Hendrickson. People are saying, oh, great, Jared says dependable, accountable, reliable, and now he wants a guy who missed 10 games last year. Yes, because the core muscle surgery is not one of those injuries that is expected to linger. He's a 17-game-a-year guy. He's an incredibly competitive guy. He's a team leader. He's an incredibly productive guy. I mean, this is the guy. I'm taking the risk on the age at 31 and the risk on the injury last year in order to acquire Trey Hendrickson to make my defense better so that Cam Ward in turn will be better. That's what I'm doing. And that's the risk, and I'm willing to take it. So there's now a lot of talk that Cincinnati might tag him, which is crazy. Because, again, last year he and Cincinnati, I feel like they went 12 rounds in the ring. And finally, Cincinnati did things that other teams won't do. Cincinnati, same with the other pass rusher they drafted, they just held their ground. And when it came to Hendrickson, they were like, you know what? Screw it. You lose your money. And we're the Bengals. So we will be taking that money from you, and you know that. And finally said, okay, fine, I'll come back. Well, here, he gets his contract. Respected as one of the top pass rushers in the league financially. Here you go. I do think Trey Hendrickson is exactly what this team needs. And when it comes to but Jared, do we need older veteran players? There's just not that many impact players you can get under the age of 25 years old who are available in the NFL because those guys sign contracts with their teams. That's why you can't get Jamar Chase. That's why you can't get Justin Jefferson. That's why you can't get Brock Bowers. So every guy you're going to go after, and there's a little something there. And with him, to me, it's the age and it's the injury last year. And TDG says, hurt players stay hurt. Remember, Jared, Trey Hendrickson is not exempt. Yes and no. Like, I don't expect Drake May to stay hurt because of the shoulder injury that he suffered at the end of this past season. That's an injury that gets better. Same with Cam Ward. I'm not sitting here telling you Cam Ward's injured. It's not, because I went to the Super Bowl and the Pro Football Doc told me, don't worry about that injury. Now, when it's someone who's always got an injury one way or another, that person is always going to stay injured. Somebody who's always injured in college gets to the NFL. They're always Hendrickson's a 17-game-a-year guy. Tom Brady tore his ACL once. But Tom Brady was a 17-game-a-year guy. There's a difference. TDG says, newsflash, you build through the draft, Jared. Okay, so how did the New England Patriots build? You're going to tell me the New England Patriots built through the draft because they drafted Drake May and they drafted Will Campbell. And I guess they drafted Christian Gonzalez. What about everybody else? What about Milton Williams? What about Stephon Diggs? What about Hunter Henry? What about Harold Landry? What about Carlton Davis? What about 90% of that team outside of Drake May? Here's what you do. In order to help a young quarterback succeed, you get a defense and you run the ball. You shorten the game and you lower the score. And then you ask that young quarterback to make a couple of plays a game to win you the game. That's what Drake May did in New England. Had a great defense. That's what I'm going to do here. I am going to try to win the game because that's what builds confidence in a quarterback. Winning. Very few quarterbacks, they exist, but very few quarterbacks earn reputations based on throwing for 5,000 yards in a season. It really comes down to winning. And that's what Cam Ward needs to do this year. Win some games. So that's where I sit. When it comes to building around Cam Ward, I want a defense. And I want a running game. And then we can add playmakers as we go. When it comes to the impact players of the future, that's the draft. That's why I wouldn't trade a second-round pick for Trey Hendrickson. That's why I'm going to trade T'Vondre Sweat, a guy I don't have a use for on this football team. Give me a break. Draft, develop, retain. Free agency, bad. No, signing L'Jarius Sneed is bad. I thought about doing the corner board today, and then I looked at the corners, and Robert Saleh, the way they play defenses, it reminds me of the old Titans defenses under Greg Williams and Jim Schwartz, where it's like, go get him, Javon Curse. Go get him, Albert Hainsworth. Go get him, Kyle Vandenbosch. Go get him, Kevin Carter. And then we're going to drop back in coverage. So I don't need to pay a high-priced DB to come in here when I can just go sign starting caliber DBs and then go say, go get him Trey Hendrickson, go get him Jeffrey Simmons, go get him David Bailey. That's what I'm doing. That's how I'm building the team. They're about to drop the puck, by the way, in overtime of the Team USA women's final. But congratulations to Team USA for surviving last night. Oh my God. I looked at Canada and I thought Canada was going to lose to Czechia earlier in the day. And then I'm watching Team USA yesterday after we get off the air and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to blow it now too. And Team USA did not. Tomorrow, Team USA plays Slovakia. Now, I don't know other than Thomas Tatar and Eric Cernak. I don't know anybody on Slovakia's team, so I expect the U.S. to win. But if I've learned anything in these Olympics and the Olympics in general, hey, man, it's hockey and it's one game. And if a goalie gets hot, you can be in trouble. And if your goalie doesn't show up, you can also be in trouble. So I'm not taking anything for granted, and I don't think Team USA should either. But let me say this. As I was watching the Canada-Czechia game yesterday, there was a part of me that said to myself, I don't want Canada to lose. Because in the Olympics, we have never been able to beat Canada when it matters. Last year in the Four Nations, we beat Canada in the round robin, and then we got beat in overtime in the final against Canada. Canada, when it comes to ice hockey, Canada is our bigger brother. I said because Canada just had a breakaway on Team USA in overtime and didn't score. Canada is the bigger brother in men's ice hockey. That's got to end. And it doesn't end by Canada losing to Czechia. It ends by the United States and the gold medal game beating Canada in these Olympics in Italy. And that's what I want. Now, I feel bad for Team USA. Unlike Canada, they don't get to play UC Soros tomorrow. But I'm all in on Team USA. And I actually, when we were talking about, Jeff Schwartz and I, because we're doing the morning show on Sirius tomorrow, and I was like, you know what? Let's put together a list. Because I do care about Team USA, especially in hockey, because I like hockey, but also because my girlfriend's Canadian. And her family's Canadian. And, there's a little bit more skin in the game now than there used to be. And last year, I was all in on the Four Nations face-off, and I was crushed. And you have to remember, our family, we're friends with the Benningtons. And I hope Jordan Bennington dies like a dog in the finals, in the gold medal game to Team USA. And I'm nervous because I think Austin Matthews is a choker. I think he's like Lamar Jackson. I think he's really, really good. And then in every big gotta-have-it game, for whatever reason, Austin Matthews never wins. But I'm pumped. And so I was talking to Jeff Schwartz about putting together a list of where Team USA winning the gold medal would rank for me. Like, how many things out there would I want more than Team USA winning the gold medal this weekend against Canada? And again, I'm rooting for the women's team, but I'm not as invested in the women's team winning a gold medal against Canada as I obviously am the men's team. So here's where I came. This is where I put it. Number one, Titans winning the Super Bowl. That is, Jared, the sports gods have come to you and they've told you you can have whatever you want. I want the Titans to win the Super Bowl. My dad is in his mid-70s. I just want one. If you told me that Cam Ward really was that guy and that in 3 years the Titans would be hoisting the Lombardi and my dad and my son would be old enough to remember it and experience it, then God bless you, Tennessee Titans. That's number one. Number two, I don't think would surprise you, Predators Stanley Cup. Now, I'm a little bummed out that I'm not doing the afternoon show on the flagship. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Woo-hoo! Couple of saves right there. Woo! Girl from Canada's kind of hot. Wow. Then again, all the girls from Canada are hot. Man. Yeah, I'm a little bummed out that I'm not on the flagship station of the, team, but it's not the same as it was in 2017 anyways. And I'm a huge Predators fan, so I would love for Team USA, for the Predators to win the Cup. That's number two. Number three, Louisville to win a football national championship. I put that one spot ahead of Louisville winning a women's basketball championship because even though women's basketball is the sport that gave me my start and the coach is still there and everything else, a football national championship just means so much to the school and the university. And, a guy who was like an older brother to me is the athletic director there. And again, that's a football national championship. And I know we're a basketball school, but we've won basketball national championships before. I would take a football national championship first. Number 4 would be a Louisville women's basketball championship. Number 5 would be a men's basketball championship. Number 6, a Vanderbilt football championship, because that would really mean something. Number 7, probably Team USA win the gold medal. I've got that ahead of a Braves Super Bowl, because a Braves World Series, because I've seen the Braves win 2 World Series in my lifetime, including one 5 years ago, and my dad and I went to 3 of those World Series games. Yes! 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 Team USA! 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 All right! Wow! All right, hold on. We got to send Lindsay a text. Oh, man. And she's at work wearing her Team Canada personalized jersey. Let's just send USA. USA. Flag, flag, flag. And let's include her brother in on this one, too. Oh, man. USA. 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 You know, I always tell people this when it comes to America. I always say, you cannot love America more than I do. You can love it the same amount that I do, but you cannot love it more than I do. Way to go, USA! Woo! What the hell was I talking about? Oh, yeah. I would rather they win the gold medal against Canada in men's ice hockey than the Braves win the World Series, because the Braves won the World Series 5 years ago, and my dad and I lived through that. It was great, and I'm rooting for them and all that, but I've seen that now. That, like, the juice is out of that one for me. The one thing I did put on here, and TDG, I think this is for you. I put a second Sam Darnold Super Bowl just because of how great that would be. Wow. What a win for the women's ice hockey team. Way to fucking go, USA. Boy, and I'll tell you, I was getting my butthole, and I know I was doing the show, and I was just kind of glancing over at the TV. My tushy, my sphincter was getting tight in that third period. I was getting nervous, thinking that they were going to blow it. Do we know who scored? Again, I'm not watching. You know, I don't have the sound on. Who is that? Oh, what a move by Keller. Oh, my God, that goal was sick. Oh, my God. Oh, shit. What a goal. Wow. Oh. I don't even know how you stop that. I mean, wow. Just goes underneath the defender's legs, goes around, and then puts it right under the, was it under the blocker? Wow. What a freaking goal. Whew. Unbelievable. USA, USA, USA. And again, congratulations to the women's team. I love you. I was rooting for you. They just showed the Canadian coach in tears on the bench. Fuck him. You know, I don't care. But, like, I care. I mean, this is great. But we need the men's team to win. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because you got to beat Slovakia first. I mean, if they end up playing in a bronze medal game and Canada skates to the gold, I'm going to be really sad. Poor Canada. But, hey, screw them. Way to go, USA. All right. One other thing on kind of the hockey front here, that it's kind of a two-part thing. So speaking of hockey and the Predators, Main Street Sports, the company that owns the FanDuel Sports Network, is all but toast. They put out what's called a warning, which basically means that they have told their employees, we're shutting down in 60 days. Why are they shutting down in 60 days? Because in 60 days, the NHL and NBA regular seasons are over, and they're going to dissolve after that. I've been told the Atlanta Braves have not made it official, but the Atlanta Braves are out as far as the FanDuel Sports Network is concerned, and they were really the only team that was still standing. So it's going to be over and they're going to be gone. I have a lot of feelings about this. I never liked the idea that when Fox sold the RSNs to Disney as part of that huge acquisition in 2019, the Department of Justice made Disney divest those stations and sold them to Sinclair. I do think that it was very unfortunate how COVID hit immediately and really ruined that business model. But the Bally Sports Network and the FanDuel Sports Network, and these things have been just run down low-class operations since they got sold away from Big Fox. If they had gone to ESPN at the beginning, I think ESPN would have integrated it. They would have found a way to integrate it with its digital offerings, and we all would have lived one way or another. Couple of things. Number one, I feel secure that Main Street Sports and the FanDuel Sports Network dissolving and going away will be good for Predators fans. And I feel good because I believe what is next is you're going to see these NHL teams, you're going to see these NBA teams, Major League Baseball teams find over-the-air partners, which means you will see them find channels, Ion channels and Scripps channels and these kind of local channels that no one ever pays attention to. And they, like they've done in Vegas, like they've done in Dallas, they will have hockey games. I don't know that for a fact. I have not talked to the Predators about that, but I think that's probably what's going to happen. The second thing on this is I think all we want to do, everybody's got, for the most part, some sort of cable subscription, whether it's a YouTube TV, whether it's a whatever. We just want to watch the games for free. We just want to turn on the TV, just click and watch the games. And we don't want to have to pay $29 extra per month to do it. And that's what FanDuel Sports right now is requiring people to do. So I think this is going to be very good for the Predators. The second thing with all this, I don't know what's going to happen with the Braves. They're owned by a media company, Liberty Media, so that gives them other options. I know that last year there were a couple of Braves games that were on, I think, an affiliate or a sub-channel of Channel 4 here in Nashville. I don't know what's going to happen with the Braves, but I assume it'll be on things like YouTube TV and Hulu Live and Fubo and all those other things, which is great. But I do wonder, with spring training starting, should we talk more Braves on this program? I talked almost zero Braves in my local Nashville radio show. But my local Nashville radio show could get you just a little bit north of Bowling Green, could barely even get you to Murfreesboro, and certainly was not approaching anywhere in the Atlanta metro area. When it comes to the digital stuff, we target Nashville, but anybody can just click on anything. And during the summer, it gets a little lean. And I do love the Atlanta Braves, and I'm wondering if that would expand the footprint of this show for us to talk a little more Atlanta Braves. So that's a question I actually have for you guys. And TDG says, yes, more Braves talk. So you guys tell me in the comments, do we want to have a little bit more Braves talk as the Braves baseball season gets started? I'm a huge Braves fan. Again, this is Braves country. I never believed in talking it on local Nashville radio because George Plaster used to do that. And every time Plaster would do that, I could just hear every radio across Nashville just click off when Plaster wanted to talk Braves baseball. And then, and this was, when Ryan Porth left and we changed program directors, Caroline told me, I should not throw Caroline under the bus here, but Caroline told me that Chase told her, oh yeah, talk more Braves baseball and high school football. And I thought, oh shit. I thought, oh my God, who's running this radio station? And, again, celebrity birthdays. But this isn't a radio station. So I'm a baseball fan. I think there are more baseball fans, by the way, out there across America than ESPN would ever give you credit for. If the FanDuel Sports Network was going to survive Like if FanDuel Sports Network or whatever the hell you want to call it, if they had real money and deep pockets, I would absolutely be talking more Braves. And I'll tell you why. Because I would get this show picked up on that network. But that network's going to be gone in 60 days, so I don't worry about that. And I don't know if the Preds and the Braves are going to be packaged together the way they've been in the past. I would probably doubt it, but I don't know. I just wonder, should we talk a little bit more Braves? And you guys tell me, do you think that would be good for clicks and views and not just that, but just the overall content? So leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Tell all your friends. Thank you to Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I'll be on Sirius XM tomorrow as well. Stillman and Company right here on the program. Stillman and Company right here on the 440 Sports Network. Like and subscribe.